All right, let's dive right into a huge idea. We're going to unpack a really profound argument from Professor Dr. Senthil Kumari's essay, one that forces you to rethink the very foundation of our world, and that foundation is energy. It's this invisible force connecting our most basic primal needs to our wildest, most ambitious dreams.
So let me just ask you that straight up. What makes the world go around? I mean, it's one of those big philosophical questions we've all probably thought about at some point.
And, you get some really noble answers. A lot of people would say love, right? Or maybe more modern thinkers would point to knowledge, to information. And the real idealists among us might say it's the pursuit of justice that truly drives us forward. But Dr. Kumar, he just cuts right through all of that. He says, look, for almost every single one of us, the most practical, down-to-earth answer is simply the stomach. It's so visceral, isn't it? It just yanks everything right back down to reality. And that brings us to our first big idea, the stomach or the stars. Because the point here isn't to dismiss those higher ideals, it's to show how they are fundamentally, and I mean fundamentally, tied to our most basic needs through one single element. And this is his core point right here. It doesn't matter what your goal is, love, justice, flying to Mars, or just feeding yourself. You simply cannot escape what he calls the preordained burden of energy. It's the one thing you need for literally everything else. It is the absolute bedrock of civilization. Now, this completely flips our whole idea of value on its head. We live in a world where we think money solves everything, but Dr. Kumar argues that energy is the ultimate limiting factor. And why is that? Because some energy sources are locked away by the laws of physics and geology. You can have all the money in the world, but it can't magically create more oil deep in the earth.
And this reality leads to the central, massive problem humanity is facing. Dr. Kumar calls it eating our own stomach. And wow, it's a metaphor that really hits you once you get what he means.
So here's the trap, laid out plain and simple. On one side, we have this absolutely insatiable need for more energy to fuel our growth, our progress. But on the other side, the sources we depend on are finite. They're getting more expensive and, let's be honest, they're often unsafe for us and the planet. We are well and truly stuck.
And this is that powerful metaphor. Man cannot escape his stomach, meaning we have to consume energy to survive and move forward. But we cannot afford to eat his stomach. We can't just consume the very source of our future survival, these non-renewable resources that our entire world runs on. It's a completely self-destructive cycle.
And the key thing is, this isn't just some abstract concept. Eating our stomach has a real name. Economists call it the cost of externalities. This is the real-world damage to our health, to our environment, to the future that's driven by what Dr. Kumar calls our unquenchable thirst for convenience and our insatiable greed. It's the price we pay that never shows up on the receipt. Which leads us directly to the absolutely staggering economic impact of all this. This is where the problem stops being philosophical and starts hitting you right in the wallet. Just look at that number. Dr. Kumar says that energy can account for anywhere from 25 to 50% of the cost of most things we buy and use every single day. Up to half? We're talking about the food on your plate, the phone in your hand, the very t-shirt on your back. As much as half of what you paid for it might just be the embedded energy cost. The cost to make it, to ship it, to store it. It's like a hidden tax on everything.
So yeah, you can think of the price of energy as the thermostat for the entire global economy. When that price goes up, it triggers inflation, it causes stagnation. In fact, Dr. Kumar argues that recent major financial crises weren't just about complicated banking schemes. You can trace them right back to the rising cost of energy seizing up the entire global machine.
Okay, so that's the problem. It's immense. But here's where it gets really interesting. Dr. Kumar doesn't just leave us there. He pivots to a solution that requires a total shift in how we think, a way to move beyond our current limits. He calls them disentropic systems. Now, I know that sounds like something out of science fiction, but it's really about working with physics in a much, much smarter way. See, most of our systems lose energy, right? Think of the heat coming off an engine. Disentropic systems are the opposite. They aim to be perfectly efficient or even gain energy from their surroundings. And the ultimate example? Our own planet, which has kept life going for billions of years without anyone needing to plug it in. And the logic to get there is actually incredibly elegant. Step 1, learn from nature's cycles. Step 2, figure out how to harvest all the energy that's already in motion around us without burning up finite stuff. And step 3, create a world where energy becomes, for all practical purposes, free. And the potential sources for this are just awe-inspiring. We are not just talking about more solar panels here.
Dr. Kumar points to this vast spectrum of possibilities, from invisible quantum machines at the microscopic level to the energy process in every single plant to the unstoppable power of ocean waves, all the way up to the gigantic gravitational forces that move entire galaxies. The energy is literally everywhere.
Which of course begs the obvious question. If all this incredible, near-infinite energy is just sitting there, waiting for us, why are we still fighting over oil fields? Who is going to pay to build this future?
And here's the big roadblock. Dr. Kumar calls it systemic market constraint. To put it simply, the very system we rely on for innovation is, paradoxically, strangling the most important innovation we could possibly need for our survival.
This slide just lays out the conflict perfectly. On one side, you've got profit-driven markets that demand quick wins and small, safe, incremental changes. They're just not built for the huge, long-term investments these kinds of breakthroughs require. But on the other side, you have the places where real, game-changing innovation comes from. Universities, public research labs, places that can have a long-term vision because they aren't tied to a quarterly profit report.
So, the takeaway here is that we need a whole new mindset. We have to, as he puts it, unfasten ourselves from the cobwebs of contingencies. In other words, we have to stop getting tangled up in short-term thinking, our addiction to convenience, our obsession with profits, and start focusing on long-term survival.
And that brings us to the final, incredibly powerful idea. A question to leave you with that could seriously change how you view the entire future of humanity.
The last piece of the puzzle, in his view, is empowerment. Our institutions need to stop being so timid about the future and instead unleash the imaginations of the young minds by giving them the unconstrained funding to solve this. Basically, just give them the tools and get out of the way.
You know, so much of the world's suffering, hunger, poverty, even war, it all traces back to fighting over scarce resources. So I'll leave you with this question from Dr. Kumar's work. What if energy, the single biggest driver of cost in conflict, was just free? If that 25 to 50% hidden tax on everything suddenly vanished, what would our civilization finally be free to become?